Hello, in this video I'll explain you how to print money with e-commerce. So first of all, who am I? Well, my name is Timothy. I'm the founder of the e-commerce brand Eve Curls, and as you can see here, we did over 3 million euros in revenue in the last 365 days. This is my own real brand. Like here, this is the website. You can literally see me on the picture, but it didn't always start like this. Like for example, here you see myself a couple years ago. I was picking the orders. You can see here a nice picture with my dad filling up the oil bottles. But since then, we've grown a lot. I have learned a lot. Like here, for example, you can see our Trustpilot. We have over 2,500 reviews with an amazing rating. So this is my own real brand, and I just love teaching, helping people. That's why I'm making these YouTube videos, just to help people and build up my personal brand. And before we start, I just want to let you know that if you're working on your own ecom brand and you could use some support, I'm offering more hands-on help. So check the link in the description if you're curious. And with that said, let's get started. First of all, what do you need for a successful brand? Well, basically you need two things. One is you need a great product and you need great marketing. Like both is needed. So let's first start with the product part. So what is a great product? Well, a very essential element of a great product is that you have product market fit. This basically means that there needs to be demand for your product. So it could be that you have the best website, the best marketing, but if just no one wants your product, no one will buy. So that's what we call product market fit. Like your product and the market, like it needs to properly fit and like there needs to be a demand. And then you could think, for example, then, okay, how do you find product market fit? How do you know if a product has product market fit? Well, like a great indicator is that you already see other successful brands. So maybe you see a brand in your same market or in a different market, a different region, selling a very similar product. So that is already a indicator that there is some fit. Like if they're successful, then you can probably be as well. A nice tool to use is just checking the meta ad library. Like if you know a specific brand selling a product, type it in their meta ads library, and you can just see basically any ad which they have live. Then you can just see, okay, what are they exactly doing? How many ads do they have live? How long have they been, to truly understand, is this brand really successful or is it also just starting out? Also, just looking at TikTok, also other social media platforms, just like if you see some products going viral there, that just shows like there is some demand for it. Another great indicator is looking at reviews, like just as I had with my own brands. Like if you see a brand that has a lot of reviews, great reviews, that just shows that, yeah, this brand is having some success. So that is also another great indicator of product market fit. But in the end, like it all just comes down to testing it yourself. Like, will you have any success yourself if you launch your ads, if you start advertising? But it would be great to at least find some great indicators which show that there is some potential to have success. And the biggest one is just having other successful brands who are doing something similar. And then to continue, another very important thing to keep in mind for a great product is the TAM. And that means the total addressable market. Because the demand needs to be big for your products. Because first of all, you need to ask yourself, what is your goal? So let's say that you want to build a $10 million brand, like a brand that does $10 million in revenue per year. Well, like let's estimate two different scenarios. Scenario one is, so you have an AOV of $50 and like people buy a product once a year. And you have a very niche product. So there are only 50,000 people in this niche, which might sound like a lot of people, but let's say we only have 50,000 people. Then your TAM would be $50 times 50,000 people. That is $2.5 million per year of like revenue that could be made if you would dominate this whole market. And if your goal is to build a $10 million brand, you already see that that is just basically impossible. And let's have another scenario, that if you would have a much broader product. So, for example, a fitness supplement for men. And let's assume that 20% of men in US are into fitness. That is 60 million people. So the TAM of the market, if the AOV is also $50 and people buy on average once a year, but people buy much more, but let's just assume people buy once a year, then the total addressable market would be 50 times 60 million. And that is basically $3 billion. So to make $10 million a year, you would only need 0.3% of the markets. And this is just the US alone. So it is much easier to have success in this specific niche than to have it in this one. Like here, it's even impossible. So that's why it's important to keep in mind the TAM. So think about what is your goal. Think about how big is this market, and is it even possible to achieve this in this market? Because also, like if your TAM would be 15 million, to make $10 million in a total market of 15 million is very, very tough. Like there are very few companies, if maybe not even none, in the world that contain like 70% of a market. If you already contain 10% of a market, that is can maybe seen as an insane number. Like numbers or these are much more realistic, especially if you're starting out. So really think about how big can this market be. So like you need to have product market fit, but also if you want to build something big, the market needs to be big as well. So think about that as well. And then to continue, the next part of what makes a great product, well, that is good margins. Like you need to make good margins on a product. So when I talk about margins, I'm talking about gross margin. So that is like, let's say if you produce a product for $2 and you sell it for $10, you have a profit of 8 on the product. So that is a gross margin of 80%. So that is what we call what needs to be great. Because let's look at two different scenarios. We have scenario A, where you have a business that does a revenue of $10 million. They have an ad spend of 3 million, which is very, very normal for an e-commerce business. That like around 30% of their revenue goes to marketing, which is very normal in e-commerce. And your other costs are like around $1 million. This is basically all your employees, any software, just every other cost which you make in the business is around $1 million a year. And also, if you would have a gross margin of 60%, which would mean that your product would cost 4 million, you would have a profit of 2 million. However, if you have another business with the same revenue, same marketing, same other cost, but they just had a gross margin of 40%, so that means that, for example, if they sell the product for $10, they produce it for 6, so only for 40% margin, the same business, because they have a higher product cost, would actually make $0. So this is how you see the impact of gross margins, especially if you're in e-commerce, because you just spend so much money on marketing. It's an industry where like a lot of money is spent on marketing compared to other industries. That's why you need margin, that you have room to play with and to advertise with. And also, please don't get me wrong. Initially, low margins are okay to test. However, the more you grow, the more it will cost to acquire new customers. So that is just a fact. Like the bigger you become, the harder it will get. So to make millions, you need to have a strong gross margin. Like initially it is okay, but to truly grow, you need to have strong gross margins. So initially, like a 40-50% gross margin is okay if this just allows you to test on a low scale. Because it's okay that you maybe found a manufacturer for your product and they tell you, okay, for this high price, you only need very little units. You don't need to buy thousands of units. Just that you can test like the product market fit. Like, are you even able to sell? Because that is most important. But if you want to make millions, if you want to grow, you need to make at least 60% margins in e-commerce. So with higher orders, your cost of products need to cost down. So that is another key part of a great product, is just having good margins on it. Then to continue, the average order value is also very important. Preferably an average order value of around $40, because acquiring new customers through ads is expensive. Like as I said, a lot of your money will go to marketing, and it will probably be at least $10 to $20. It really depends on your needs. If you're selling an expensive product, it could be even hundreds of dollars. So if you have an AOV of $10 and you have a gross margin of 60%, that means that there's only $6 left to spend on ads and to acquire a customer. And that would just make it very, very difficult. So you need to prefer to have a high AOV, and you don't need to have a very low value product which only costs $10. And then you can ask yourself, okay, so how to boost your AOV? So one good way is just to pick products which have a high AOV naturally. Like if you're selling, for example, a bucket of rice, which you can buy in the supermarket for $3, well, like it will be very tough to get a high AOV if you're selling such products. However, what you can do is, for example, you could bundle products together as well. Like, let's say you have low AOV products, you can bundle the same product together. And if that makes sense for a customer to buy multiple pieces of one product, then you could increase your AOV with a low AOV product. Or also, what you can do is adding a complementary product. For example, with Eve curls, like a hair product price is usually around $15, $10, $20. So one product would only have a very low AOV. That's why we are bundling different types of products. We're grouping them together. We're making a package, and that allows us to have a higher AOV, which just allows us to make more profit per order. And because of that, we can advertise profitably, and we still have money left then to pay our team, to pay ourselves, and everything. And then another important thing to scale is that you need returning customers, because without returning customers you will always be fighting for new customers, and returning customers will compound over time, and this will give you true profits. So first of all, what how do you get returning customers? Well, first of all, people need to like your product needs to actually be good. People need to have a good experience when buying. Like when people bought it, they need to love your product, because that's the reason why they come back. Then also, how to get returning customers is that one nice thing would be that your product is a consumable. That means that your product, like, it's being used by the consumer and it finishes. For example, a cosmetic product, a supplement, a food type of product. These products finish basically by themselves naturally, and the consumer will buy a new one. But also, what could happen is that your product is not a consumable product, but you're just launching new products. For example, a fashion brand. Like if you buy a pair of jeans, your jeans will in 1 year still be there. Like it doesn't finish. So, but what a lot of fashion brands do, they continuously launch new products. They launch a t shirt, they launch a hat, and then your existing customer base can buy new products. So you already acquired this customer with your first product, and then you're introducing new products to get to return people, because it is much easier to make someone who already bought from you buy again than to convince a completely new person. And that is really what will give you the true profit, just having a big base of returning customers which stack up on top of each other after months or years of running the business. And that is what will give you a brand which has value, which has predictable revenue, and which will give you profits for years or even decades. And this is not a drop shipping brand which you have success for 2 months and then it dies out, but we're building a true brand here. So what you need is returning customers, customers that are coming back, buying every time, because you can rely on them. You don't need to spend as much or maybe even zero on ads for them. You just send them some emails. They are on top of their mind, and this will make you very, very profitable. So to summarize, when choosing a product, think about these elements. For first, you need product market fit. So like your product needs demand. So this is the first important thing that you need to test. You just need to test, do people even want my product? What can really help is finding competitors. Are they having any success? But once you've found that, you still need to test it yourself. So don't invest too much time into an amazing, perfect packaging, perfect website, optimizing everything. First, just test, is there even demand? Is there even someone who is willing to pay for my product? That is the most important thing. Then your TAM, total addressable market. Think about how big the market is. Like if you want to go big, your market needs to be big as well. Keep that in mind. Also, good margins is very important as well. Having a high AOV, average order value, and having returning customers. This will make everything much, much, much easier when you don't have to fight for the rest of your life for new customers, but you're having a nice product which people will buy again, or you can introduce new products which people will then buy, and you have a reliable source of revenue which you don't need to run ads for. And it is okay to not have all of these elements when starting out. But if you want to scale later on, like, you will need all of these elements. Yeah, this is basically all what you need to have a great product. And now, once I've explained to you guys how to have a great product, I will now explain you what is great marketing for e-commerce. Because first, like, you need a great product, but then you need to advertise it properly. You need to get people, you need to get customers. So this is about the marketing part, about how to get customers for your brand. So first of all, how does it look like? Basically, the whole funnel. So you're doing marketing, and marketing brings traffic to your website. And then, so these people go to your website, and then once you're on the website, you try to convert visitors into customers. In your ads, in this marketing part on your website, you need to have all kinds of elements to truly convince people to buy your product. So like first, you need a great product. And once you have that, You'll need to tell people about your product with your marketing, and with your marketing, you bring them to your website, and there you convert them into a customer. First of all, how to bring traffic to your website? Well, it is pretty simple. Like what to do with your e-commerce brand, that you need to run ads on Meta. It is truly the best advertising platform there is. In the beginning, don't even focus on anything else. It would just drain focus out of you. Focus on this thing. Also for our own brand, Eve Curls, almost all ad spend goes to Meta. We are also advertising on TikTok, on Google, but maybe even 90+% of ad spend goes to Meta. So really focus on this in the beginning, and you'll have $1 million brand without any other platform. And Meta basically consists of two things. One is ad creatives. So this is about like how to make the ads. You need to have some videos, pictures, and what we call ad creatives. And then you need a media buying strategy. So this is about how to run your ads, like which buttons do you click, how do you optimize the accounts. And as you can see, what I try to explain here, your ads, videos, pictures are really, the creatives are really the most important part, which will determine your success. And your media buying strategy, very little. So really focus on this, but this is also important, but focus mostly on making great ad creatives. So first of all, if to deep dive on the ad creatives, it basically consists of two types of ads: top of funnel ads and bottom of funnel ads. And what you need mostly are top of funnel ads. So these top of funnel ads, these ads bring new people in touch with your brands. And usually videos do very well in this format. So what you need is just non-stop testing of new creatives. And think about different angles you can sell your products, and different personas you can target, and really test lots of concepts, ideally 100 plus a month. With Eve Girls, we're testing hundreds of concepts a month. And with a concept, I mean, if you're testing a video with like 3 different hooks, that's what I mean, one concept. Really, truly maximize this. And because most brands don't test enough. And what I see all successful brands doing is they just are going heavily on content, really building, pumping out lots of ads. And just slowly build out a team. Start with yourself, hire an editor, hire a script writer, slowly build out your team and increase creative volume. So just make loads of top of funnel ads to bring new people in touch with your brand, and just test loads of them. And then you also need some bottom of funnel ads, because not everyone will buy straight from these top of funnel ads, but your brand will be really undermined. And these bottom of funnel ads, these ads capture people who know your brand and product well, but they just haven't bought yet. And these ads usually like highlight the offer of that you have. They highlight a certain discount or a certain guarantee. And statics usually do very well in this format. You really need both types of ads. And bottom of funnel ads will probably show better performance if you look in your Meta ads platform than top of funnel ads. However, without your top of funnel ads, your bottom of funnel ads will not be successful. That's why you need a mix. Have a lot of top of funnel ads which drive people into your funnel, which create brand awareness and already also convert a lot of people. And then you have some bottom of funnel ads for people that just are just almost ready to buy, have them as well, and they just squeeze out everyone who hasn't bought it, and they just give the last push by just showing, look, hey, we have this discount. Oh, by the way, if you don't like the product, you get your money back. Just overcoming these last uncertainties of people. So that is basically all important parts with regards to ad creatives. Just create top of funnel ads and bottom of funnel ads. Then to continue about the media buying strategy. So just keep it simple. Just run a simple CBO structure. And what I mean, so this CBO stands for campaign budget optimization. So that means that you optimize your ads on the campaign level. So just have one campaign, and for each ad concept you make, put them in one ad set. So how does the strategy look like? Well, first of all, you need to set a target NCPA. NCPA stands for new cost per acquisition. So you want to track how much you spent to acquire a new customer, because what you want to bring new customers into the business, acquire new customers, and eventually they will become returning customers. But you need to focus on getting new people into the business, because only that way you'll keep growing your returning customer base. So set a target for your NCPA. Think about, okay, with what NCPA will I maximize profit? Because you could, for example, make a 40% margin on your order, but only get 10 sales. But if you would lower your margin to maybe 20%, you could maybe get 100 sales. So think about, because as your budget increases, your ads will become more expensive. So if you look at this sweet spot, with which NCPA do I maximize my total profit? Determine that, get like a number which you want, and then focus on that. Try to hit this number every single day. Then, how do you optimize your ad account? So, first of all, you need to calculate your overall NCPA. And your overall NCPA is very simple. You just take your total ad spend of a certain day. You go into Shopify, you can see how many new customers did you have. You divide your ad spend by your new customers, and that is how much you've spent per new customer. So that is what we call NCPA. And every day, so don't even look at Meta, just look in your overall business and then follow this simple structure. So what you need to look at is you need to look at your NCPA of yesterday and at your NCPA of the last 3 days. So if your NCPA of yesterday was below your target, so that means that you actually spent less than you on a customer than you set as a threshold. That is very good. In the yesterday and the last 3 days, then you scale up your budget at with 10%. However, if it was above your target yesterday and the last 3 days, then you scale down your budget by 10% of your campaign. And all other scenarios. So, for example, your of yesterday it was better, but the last 3 days was worse, or the other way around, you just do nothing. And every day you check the numbers of yesterday and of the last 3 days, and based on that, you make a decision to keep the budget stable, to scale it up 10%, or to scale it down 10%. And this should really not take more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes every single day. Like the only thing that you need to focus on is just making ads and just putting them in them campaign, and just let Facebook do the message, and just follow the simple structure. And so, what do you do with the ad set? Because, as I told you, you need to put for each concept, you need to put them into one ad set. Well, so first of all, you need to focus on the overall performance of the campaign. Don't look too much at the performance of one single ad set, and do not turn the ad sets off. Because if they're probably not good, the ad sets won't even get spent by Meta, because Facebook decides where to spend their money. The only moment when you turn off ads is when an ad gets a lot of spend and the in-platform performance, so like Meta tells you, is very bad. And you notice, for example, hey, my total business profit, when you look at and when you calculate how much profit did I do yesterday compared to like the day before, and you see that it really dropped. And you notice that what happened was that yesterday a new ad got a lot of spend and the performance is very bad. So once you notice that, then turn off the ads. But in most cases, this does not happen often. Just keep them on, because if Facebook spends money on them, they probably do it for a reason. Because the algorithm is most of the times it is much smarter than you, and it knows much better how much to spend on which ad than you know. And then you can ask yourself, so when is an ad a winner? When is it a good ad? That is when it gets a lot of spend and the performance is good. So, like when you keep putting new ad creatives into this certain campaign, you know that an ad is a winner if this ad basically takes up a lot of spends. And because of that, your performance, your over performance, your over NCPA dropped. That is a very good, and so that is a very, very good sign. And that is what we call a winner. And then it is important to understand why this ad is doing well, and then try to make more of these. So just keep launching ads to really keep track of which ads were winners. And based off that, get our feedback and create more ads. That's how the ad creative game works. Yeah, with that said, to summarize, how to print money with e-commerce. So first of all, you need great product. What is really important is, first of all, that you have product market fit, and then all of the elements which are listed is what you need to truly grow. You don't need them in the beginning initially, but if you want to build a truly big brand, you need all these elements. So keep this in mind when picking a product. And you also need great marketing. So once you have your great product, you need to show it to people, you need to convince people to buy. So with these two elements, you can really achieve crazy results in a short amount of time. Like that is exactly what is happening with my own brand Equals. That's why we've grown so fast. Like in a couple years, we've done now almost more than 3 million euros in the last 12 months. We are now expected to do over 10 million this year. So you mostly need these two things, and this will really put you in the right direction to build a true big, sustainable e commerce brand. And to finish it off, as I said earlier, if you need more personal help with growing your e commerce brand, I am here to help. So please check the link in the description for more information, because this is really something I wish I had when I started with my own brand, Eve Girls. So it would have saved me years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you're interested, just check the link in the description. So thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next.